when you're in that headspace and you're at rock bottom and you feel so bad about yourself, it's like you don't care about anyone else. You don't even care about yourself, really.
Hello and welcome to the Invisible Addiction podcast. If you're a new listener, hi, thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to this episode. And of course, if you're a long-time listener of the podcast, I hope you've been keeping well. Shortly, we'll be hearing from a man sharing his gambling addiction story for the first time. But before we go any further, I would like to make a short disclaimer and say that this is an informational podcast. If you're experiencing gambling problems, of course, I hope you relate to the stories you hear, but please do seek professional help. Links to that support can be found on the Invisible Addiction website, www.theinvisibleaddiction.com/support. Right, without further ado, let's crack on with the podcast. Okay, so joining us on the other end of the line today is Nick from Sheffield. He's come onto the podcast to share his gambling addiction story with us. He's a marketing professional by trade and in his spare time runs the YouTube channel The Sheff United Way, which has garnered over 3 million views. It gives me great pleasure to introduce him to the Invisible Addiction podcast. Nick, how are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. And thank you very much for that introduction.
Oh, you're welcome. It's a fabulous channel that you've got going. So look, before we dive into your story today, I just wondered if we could, or you could, perhaps just tell the listeners a little bit about your background and experience, like where you grew up, what you do for a living, etc., etc.
Yeah, no problem at all. So like you say, I'm from Sheffield. I'm 33 now, getting on a bit. I grew up in Sheffield, born and raised, still live here. I started kind of, the gateway into gambling was definitely football related, because I started playing football as probably a Sunday League, junior Sunday League at like 6-7 years old. I know they obviously start a lot younger these days, so I'm definitely showing my age there. But started at that age, played football right the way up to 5 or 6 years ago. We're never really that good, let's be honest. Had trials with Sheffield United, got right to the end, and then messed up on Bramall Lane. So that's a bit gutting. Played for Sheffield FC, the oldest club in the world. That's my footballing story over. But he definitely, the gambling story definitely started by watching football and putting that very, very first accumulator on. So that's where it all started.
Well, that leads me nicely on to the next question, really. So yeah, talk us through the whole start with the gambling and that football accumulator.
Actually, what I'll tell you first is how I first started watching you, or listening to you, if you like, because it was very. I don't want to blow smoke up your backside, but I absolutely love the channel. I love listening to you talking to everybody. I love listening to your story as well, because the very first time I listened to your story, I'd actually injured my Achilles. I'd ruptured my Achilles, and if anyone's ever had one of those before, it's not pleasant. I was working from home for a long time, down, kind of very, very down, because I wasn't seeing anyone. Working from home, doing really, really mundane, boring tasks. Couldn't drive, couldn't run, couldn't walk, couldn't do anything. And then I finished working at my at my last job, started working at my new place. But in between there, I had about 3 weeks, and I was walking quite a lot, because my missus was, she was obviously working when I wasn't. And I was just walking as much as I could, because that's all I could do at that point. And I wouldn't say I was having kind of these thoughts of getting back into gambling, but I was thinking about it a little bit. I would never think that I was going to put a bet on, but I was thinking about it. I'm like, right, I wonder if there's any kind of YouTube videos or podcasts or anything that I can listen to. And I found yours. I set off and I found a different one, didn't enjoy it, put yours on. And it was the very first kind of 5 minutes that got me hooked, when you were saying, I do cry in this podcast.
Oh, God.
I do this, I do that.
Yeah.
And you had me kind of on the edge. You really did, because your story took me back to my story. and it was I couldn't stop listening to you after that.
Oh my goodness. No, thank you. That was like it's about a year ago now, I think, almost a year ago since I recorded that in the first lockdown. And I remember, do you know what? I was shaking like a leaf before that recording. I said to myself all week, I was like, right, I'm going to do this recording. And then I started to research it and everything. And I remember getting in the car, physically shaking, and you can probably hear it a lot in my voice. And it's just bizarre, isn't it? Recording a podcast, knowing that obviously, or hoping that other people will listen to it, but not really knowing the full impact of it. So it's it's very I don't know what's the word. I don't know what to say, but no, thank you. If that's even the right thing to say, I don't know. Is thank you the right thing to say? I don't know. Yeah.
I know what you mean when you kind of bare in your heart and soul, because this is what it is, and people don't understand how much it can affect somebody. And it is a horrible addiction to get into, and like everybody says, it's like you say, it's the invisible addiction, and it's just horrendous to live it. And people don't really give it the dues that it kind of doesn't get, but people don't see it as being as bad as drinking and kind of doing drugs and things like that. And we do need to change everybody's perspective.
100%. So 2 trains of thought here, Nick. Sorry, like, where do you want to pick the story up? Do you want to pick up from the lockdown, like you've just described, or do you want to go right back to the very start? Where would you like to kind of pick things up?
I don't really think after the lockdown was that exciting, to be honest. Other than obviously starting to listen to you and listen to other stories that kind of helped me out as well. We'll start from the beginning, if you like. And like I said, the football is definitely, for me, a gateway into gambling, because you pick up that first betting slip. I think I was about 17, something like that. So I've got my dates here, 2004. You pick up your first betting slip and you mark down 20, 25 teams. You're thinking, like, oh, I'll just put £1 on, and you're thinking that it's going to kind of pay you back £20 because you're looking at all these teams. It's like, they're definitely going to win. They're definitely going to win. And you go through and through and through, and then you take your slip to the cashier, and you get it back. It's like, £5 million. I'm going to be rich. And everybody must have that when you're young and you're wet behind the ears, and you just think, oh, it's so easy. So I didn't really get into gambling after that for probably another 4 or 5 years, something like that. That wasn't really what I was. I wasn't really into it. I wasn't really that bothered, but it was definitely kind of football bets sporadically here and there. Kind of, it wasn't even every week. It was kind of between 17 and 22. I would probably say once a month, if that, maybe once every 2-3 months, I would put a bet on. Back in them days, I'm trying to think back if phones had internet back then.
Probably not, actually. Probably not. Yeah.
Probably not. So the moment where it all started for me was me and my mate on lunch going to the bookies, which I used to work in a place called Darnell, which isn't a very nice area in Sheffield. And as you probably already know, most of the horrible areas have lots and lots of bookies, and lots of people that you probably wouldn't want to be associated with on a daily basis go in there. And where I worked, it was a nice part of Darnell, but you walked into the centre, and there were, let me think, William Hill, Ladbrokes, Coral, Betfred. It's 4 there. I think there's another one at some point, but I think a couple have been closed down now. But it makes me laugh that kind of a food place, you probably wouldn't find 4 or 5 food places in one kind of area. And the fact that there's so many bookies, you think they can't all be making so much money, but obviously they do, because you go from one to the other. Yeah. And I had my favourites and stuff, but I ended up going in all of them. And as well, obviously you'll know this as well as everybody else, bookies always have cash machines around them as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's even worse when they're like £2.99 to take your money out. You just don't even think about it, do you? You just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm kind of jumping ahead here. So the reason why I got into it, it wasn't necessarily the football bets at this point. It was the roulette. The roulette in the bookies, and not just roulette, bagatelle. I absolutely love bagatelle.
That's what it was
ball
called.
Used to drop and ping, 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 ping.
I did as well. That, by the way, sorry to interrupt your flow.
It's fine.
I recorded a vlog the other day. I don't even know if it's going to make the YouTube channel. and I talk about that was it in William Hill, wasn't it? Bagatelle.
Yeah, bagatelle. Yeah.
Because the games would be, the certain software would be on certain, bookies would use the certain software. So it might have been duplicated somewhere else. But I was just the same as you. I loved that through the pin. Yeah, literally. God, yeah.
Yeah, and then you'd kind of land in one that you wouldn't really want to, and you'd have like 20 or 25p, I can't remember what it was, on like a corner, and then it'd say £1.50 or whatever. And then it'd say, do you want to bet this? And then it'd drop down again and either land in lose ×2 or ×3 or something like that.
Oh, this is all too close to the bone. It's like a memory that I've just sort of, it's been dug back up again. This is, I can relate. Literally, I'm just like, this is exactly the same as what I experienced. Yeah, wow.
I'm really sorry about that.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's, it's just nice to know that, I wasn't alone in that thinking. So no, it's nice to be able to relate, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I won't mention any names, but the lad that I used to, I'm still best mates with him now, to be honest. And he's still got an addiction, but he subsidizes that with kind of how much money he earns. He earns a lot of money, so I think it's still probably a problem for him. But whereas I reached a breaking point, he never has, because he's always been able to kind of dig himself out of it. But he kind of introduced me to the I can't remember what they're called now. Something fixed terminal. What they called?
Fixed odds betting terminals, FOBTs. I mean, I don't really like that name, but that's what it's called. Yeah.
I just always remember them as the machines. I always called them the machines.
Yeah, me too. The roulette machines. Yeah, or the shredder. I think that's been banded around. My mates used to call it the shredder. So yeah.
And it always, do you know what, the two noises that I can't get out of my brain to this day is the note going in and the pins bouncing around. Like, it's horrendous just to think about it right now. And I know I can see, nobody else can see your face right now, but
yes, the pain. Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. So anyway, I'll crack on. So so we would go on lunch, and at first it was, we'll go for a sandwich. Yeah, we'll come for a sandwich. We'll come back the next day. We'll go to Chippy. We'll go to Chippy. As you can see, we're both great physical specimens by all the food that we're eating. But one day he just says, "Oh, do you want to go to the bookies?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I can do." Like, it didn't bother me at all. And then we went in. I was just stood watching him kind of spinning the roulette wheel. And I know a lot of people say this, but if he did, it's not about me. If I didn't win that first bet, it was if he didn't win so much money on that very first kind of spin or kind of session in the bookies, I wouldn't be where I was now. And I'm not blaming him at all. It's all my fault. He's a very good friend of mine. But the fact that he won kind of £200-300 from sticking 20-30 quid in, it made me think, kind of dollar signs in the eyes and all that lot. And it just made me think, if it's that easy, I'll do it. And I am the self-proclaimed worst gambler in the world, because I very, very rarely won. Like, I've never really won that big. Like, maybe a football bet that I've won like 100-200 quid on maximum. I've won 500 quid on the roulette machines. But obviously, if you spend that much time and spin it that many times, you're going to eventually win. But when you kind of take the money out, eventually when you take the money out after kind of trying to throw it all away again, you only end up going in the next day and throwing it away, which, you probably expected that. So, yeah, not just that though. It wasn't that just that first day. I don't think I was properly hooked from the get-go. What it was, we were both team leaders at that point for the company that we worked for. And I was a 22-year-old lad on 20 grand a year, which to me, that was amazing. Like I came out of college, I did sports science at college, wanted to be a physiotherapist, and then kind of looking at all the different units, I was like, I don't enjoy nutrition. I don't enjoy this. I don't enjoy that. And then ended up just coming out of it completely and just getting an office job working for a electrical supplier, shall we say. And then I ended up working for this company. And we were both team leaders. I had way more money than I would ever need. I still lived at home, had quite a cheap car, didn't really care about cars that much. It was probably more clothes at that point that I was buying. So I had cash on the hip to waste, really, and it did not bother me one bit. And one day, me and him, as I said, we were both team leaders. He couldn't drive, and he had to pay for a Christmas do. So we went into the bookies. It's not where you think it's going anyway. We went in. He put in 20 quid, 30 quid, or whatever. He again won £200-300, whatever it was. I think I put a tenner in and lost it. So I think he gave me like 20 quid and then I won like 40 quid or something like that. So I was like, oh, brilliant. That's great. Thanks for that, mate. He's like, it's all right. I've just won 200-300 quid, whatever. And again, I always think, because he was way more of a gambler back then than I was, and he probably still is. I wonder if he'd have lost his money and if he'd have delved into the Christmas money that we were just about to pay. And it just made me think, recently when I was just thinking back about it, I was thinking, what if he'd have lost all that money? That would have also sent me in a different path, I think. But he didn't. He ended up winning loads of money, and then we paid off the Christmas due, and we probably went back to the bookies after that. Even like that's what we did, and we used to do it a lot when I worked there, and that's kind of where it all started from, really.
Wow, I can relate. I can relate a lot to your story actually. Going with a mate that you would go with to the bookies. Again, I can relate. I won't name him, but a very good friend of mine, arguably my best friend actually. That was our relationship. It was like, do you want to go out to town? Do you want to go and get a kebab? Do you want to go and get a bit of food? Oh, funny that. We'll go and nip into the bookies and just have a quick bet. And the relationship we would have, he would be at the machines and whatnot. And I could see it in his eye. I could see it in his face because he's like, oh, I'm chasing now. I'm chasing. His was zero, green zero. And just chasing that money. And then we'd sometimes lend each other money, like you just mentioned, where if someone, if I was, if he's got a couple of hundred, here's a tenner, play around with it or whatever. And then sometimes you'd help him out and then he would win all this money. And I don't know if it's just because I'm really tight, but I was kind of thinking, well, can you give me some of your winnings? Because I gave you like a tenner. So surely I'm owed some money. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But
no, it's not. Let me tell you, I was just gonna say this because I've never been one for the fruit machines. What do you call them?
Slots? Or
yeah. I don't know. I can't remember what my mate calls them. But I've always thought to myself, right, I am a gambling addict. I gamble on this and that and another. I am never ever learning how to play them. So I always just stood there, just watching kind of the lights and be like, I don't know what any of this means. And what I used to do is he would, it's the same guy again. He would put in £10, £10, £20, £10, chasing kind of that jackpot. And what I would do when he was a bit drunk, I would walk in, I'd put about 3 or 4 quid in. I'm just helping you out, mate, 3 or 4 quid here. And then when he would win the jackpot, he'd give me like 20 quid or something like that. I used to do it all the time until one day he realised what I was doing, and I'm like, oh, damn it, that's it. We're done. We're done with that trick.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. So So how did it can't get my words out. Terrible podcasting. How did it progress? I still can't get my words out. How did it progress? There we go. From there. There we
go. I was just doing it on lunch, and then after a bit, I did it at lunch and after work as well. This is going to the bookies. I remember a couple of times, like everybody else says, the lying starts, doesn't it? When you've done something that you shouldn't have, mine was, I used to stay in the bookies chasing at lunch. I'd only have an hour for lunch, which is quite a long time, really. Right now, I only get half an hour for lunch. So an hour for lunch, it takes me 5-10 minutes to walk there, 5-10 minutes to walk back. So I knew that I'd have to set off, obviously, 5 or 10 minutes before my lunch ended. And obviously, when you're chasing, nothing else comes into your head. It's just like, it doesn't matter what time it is. And I remember saying once, because I've kind of jumped ahead a little bit, but my boss at that time, he was also a bit of a gambler, and I used to see him in there quite a bit. And I've seen people kind of kick off in bookies before when they've lost or trying to smash up machines and things like that. And I made an excuse at once that somebody had done that, and we all got locked in because I had literally gone about half an hour over my lunch. And this is kind of where the line all started. But I'll quickly go back because I've jumped ahead a little bit. I don't know whether it was because of kind of like the gambling and stuff, but after a certain amount of time, I got relieved of my duties as being the team leader. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know whether it was because I was spending too much time away from the team or whether it was another reason. But I ended up in that team, and somebody else who I was managing started managing me. And he was that guy who was sat in there as well, but he was kind of like a 40-year-old man who still lived at home, maybe even older, still lived at home, wasn't really interested in kind of getting a girlfriend or anything really. So he didn't care. All his wages went into the bookies, and then he just went home to his mum and dad. Didn't drive, didn't anything. So, and I kind of always thought, I don't want to end up like him. But I went from earning £20,000 a year to earning £15,500 a year from losing that job, if you like. And then I no longer had that cash on the hip. So I was carrying on gambling, even though I didn't have the money to gamble with. I still had a little bit of money after I kind of paid off this, that, and the other. I still had probably £200-300 a month left over, but it was all going into the bookies. And before that, I probably had 500-600 quid. So I had half of the money that I had before, but I still had the same amount of addiction. So yeah, it were really tough to get out of. And obviously, when you're even though you got cash on the hip and stuff, you still get to that point where it's like, oh, I've spent all my money for the month, and then you end up kind of, oh, I'll put some money on this credit card. I'll do this, I'll do that, or I'll put petrol for this month on this credit card, and you do end up building the credit card up ever so slightly. But then when you start kind of when you lose that kind of money and you are still living the same lifestyle, you're going to end up in a bit of bother. And that's what it was. And that brings me on to how I kind of, where I got the money from. And it was payday loans. And it was the worst time. I think being worried about the payday loans was just as bad as the gambling, really. Because it all starts off with, oh, it's £100. And then you pay that back, and then it's like, I need a bit more because I've gambled it away. So then you get £200, and then it's like, I can't pay that back because I've used it all to gamble. And then you roll it over, and then it goes to 240 or whatever. And then you're getting loans out to repay that loan. And yeah, it just snowballs. You've probably heard all this before, but it does snowball. And they never really care, do they? These sort of companies, they really don't care. They don't do any sort of checks. I probably, in my pomp, if you like, I probably took out a good 8 to 10 payday loans at the same time.
Wow.
And it wasn't just that. What else I was doing? I wasn't really much of an online casino player or even offline casino player, if you like. It was just bookies and Sky Bet, really, on my phone. And it was betting on football, betting on all sorts. I'll get onto tennis in a bit because tennis was a really, really bad one. But what I would... I'm trying to think what I was going to say. Yeah, so it was really bookies and Sky Bet and stuff like that. So what I would do is I would bet kind of £20. It was always £20 on this team to beat this team. If they lost, then I just left it. I was like, right, it's not worth it. But if they won, what I would do is I would take the money out straight away. I wouldn't bet with that money because I'm thinking, right, that money's coming back into my account. So that's great. I've won. But then you would be like, that little thing in your brain would be like, right, yeah, but if I bet another 20, and then I put that into my account. And what I was doing is like betting £20, winning 40. So I put that in my bank. Betting another 20, maybe losing. Bet another 20, maybe losing. Bet another 20, putting that in my account. So my account, as you could probably expect, was just Sky Bet minus, Sky Bet plus, Sky Bet minus. It was horrific looking at my bank statement. But yeah, it was obviously a dark time back then. I definitely, for a very long time, nobody knew it. Like me and my mate would go to the bookies every now and then, but then like we would kind of go on a different lunch and I'd just go. And then that made me kind of go from just lunches to after work. I remember once whilst I parked in the work car park, it was on a Friday. I remember England were playing like an hour later. And I'm like, I'll just nip into the bookies, just win some money, as we always think.
Yeah.
And I ended up spending probably 2 hours in there. And then I came back to my car and my car was, they'd locked the gates. Everybody else had gone. My car was locked in there. And I had to ring the number that was on the side of the security barrier for somebody to come and let me out. And that was really embarrassing. And that was a bit of a low for me. Obviously not an all-time low, or I wouldn't really be on here. But that was a low for me because I was like, my gambling has caused me to embarrass myself royally here. It was horrible.
Yeah, totally. No, I was going to say it's really interesting you pick up on this. Like, it's actually it is those things. It's the missed. It's the time that you spend away from work. You know, I'll just see how much I can get away with, and time just kind of vanishes. And then it's like you say, it's those moments that are actually really quite embarrassing, like you say, where you've missed the car park and you're then quote unquote paying for the consequences of having gambled. So no, I can relate a lot to that. Is there were there any other moments that you felt a lot of embarrassment, or I don't know, where would you like to pick up the story, Nick? I don't want to interrupt your flow too much.
Well, to be honest, I had obviously a different girlfriend at that point, and I was lying constantly because I was like, I'll come to yours for 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. And then you end up getting there at 8:30. It's like, where have you been? And it's like trying to think of things off the top of your head. I can't really remember like what lies I used to tell a long time ago. It was that quite a lot. And her ex-boyfriend, he would literally, apparently, like she knew that I would every now and then go into the bookies as like a, she didn't know I had the problems that I had, but she said that he used to kind of finish work. He used to get paid weekly, and he'd lose all his money by the time he'd come home. And it's like, oh no, I'm not that daft. No.
Yeah. I was going to say, yeah.
And you know what? Again, this is going to be all over the place because I haven't thought about these things for a very long time. But when I very first started going out with this girl, before she knew that I had any problems, or before she really knew that I went into bookies, because obviously when it's a new relationship, you're trying different things, and she says, "Oh, I go to this psychic." Now, I'm not a person that is believes in anything like that, but I thought at that point it wasn't really, "Oh, I'll do it because she wants me to do it." It was more kind of like, "Oh, I wonder if they're going to get anything right. I wonder this, I wonder that." So it's like, right, I'm going to go give it a go, and it was £25, something like that. And we went into Ladbrokes just before, a couple of spins, had paid for this psychic reading. And I felt like such a king. Walked out of there like, right, let's go, let's do this. And that's like, it wasn't a lot of money, but just the fact that it's like, I was going to pay for this out of money from my bank account, but now it's free. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
And that I always remember that. I always remember that. But after kind of doing it on lunch and after work, I never really did it on the weekends, going to bookies and stuff. Right. I kind of kept myself away. And do you know what? I've wrote down here one note, and I think this is a lot of people really. I don't like using this, but an addictive personality. I think that suits me down to the ground because obviously gambling, going out at the weekend. I'm not saying I've ever had a drinking problem, which I haven't. I like a drink, don't get me wrong, but I had more of a going out problem. I loved going out. I loved going out with the lads, having a great night, coming home at 2, 3, 4 in the morning or whatever. And I would go out every single week at like Friday, Saturday, every weekend. So the gambling wasn't that bad at that point that stopped me from going out. It did obviously get worse and worse and worse. But also, I started smoking when I was about 22, quit about 26, something like that, 27. So again, it was really difficult to kind of cut the smoking out and stop the smoking. When I was probably 17, 18, something like that, I would actually, it might have been a little bit later because I was driving to Leeds for work and the new FIFA had just come out. So I was playing it constantly. I was up until 2, 3 in the morning playing it. And then I had to drive from Sheffield to Leeds, which for a lot of people might not know, it's probably about an hour and a half, something like that.
I was just about to say it's about an hour, isn't it? Yeah,
exactly. So driving from Sheffield to Leeds on 4 or 5 hours sleep wasn't great. So my mum, bless her, she used to buy me energy drinks, and not knowing how bad they are for you. And I used to drink one every day because obviously I was up playing FIFA, obviously way before the gambling addiction. And I used to literally drink one every day, and I used to whenever I could buy one, and I was just constantly drinking them. And then played football one Sunday, played the whole match, and then when I was driving home, started getting crippling stomach pains. I went back. I still lived with my mum and dad at that point. My sisters had both moved out. They'd come over for like a Sunday dinner or whatever. And I just says, I'm just going to nip to my room. And I was literally just laid on the bed, just like curled up in a ball with these stomach pains. And they went on for half an hour, something like that. And then I just went into the living room. It might have been longer than that, actually, because I think I went to sleep. And then I says, I think I'm going to have to go to hospital here because they're just not going, these stomach pains. And I think the doctor said it was gastroenteritis, which I've never had before, but it wasn't kind of what you'd expect from gastroenteritis or gastritis or whatever, but it was just a incredibly like awful pain in my stomach, and I could not get rid of it. So that's energy drinks. I still drink the occasional one these days, but I've clapped down on the gambling, well, completely. The smoking's gone, the energy drink's mostly gone. And the last one that I've put down here, because I was listening to one of your other podcasts when you're talking about FIFA packs. So I wouldn't say I've ever really had an addiction to buying FIFA packs. I could stop whenever I wanted to, but at the same time, once you open a pack and you don't get anyone good, it's like, right, I'll just open another one. And the problem that I didn't have my card linked to it, because I'm thinking I don't want it to come out of my account, which it always is going to, isn't it? But it came out of my PayPal, which made it even worse because it made me think I got more money than what I actually had. So I would open these packs. They wouldn't come out of my bank account straight away. It'd be kind of 3-4 days. And I would spend maybe 40, 50, 60 quid on these FIFA packs that you get absolutely nothing for. And like I say, you're going through paying for petrol, paying for everyday things, and then suddenly you've got way less money than what you thought you had. And that's it's not fun either. And obviously for a man of kind of 30 years and above, you've got a job, you can afford these things, and you kind of know when to stop, especially when you've kind of got over gambling. You know when to stop. But there's a lot of people out there, a lot of younger people that won't know when to stop. So, go on.
So no, you go, Nick. I don't want to interrupt you.
No, go for it.
No, I was going to say, I mean, I really don't know too much at all about the loot boxes, and in fact, I probably said that on the podcast recording that you're referring to. But yeah, is it that prevalent amongst FIFA users, as it were?
Yeah, definitely, because we'll probably get on to talking about my YouTube channel and stuff in a bit and where it's come from. But I used to be a FIFA YouTuber, if you like. I used to watch them opening the packs. I really enjoyed watching them open them. And like, quite embarrassing that because I was probably about 27, 28 at the time. And you're watching someone nearing not far off half your age opening FIFA packs that they've probably spent hundreds and hundreds of pounds on kind of buying. And it's like, it's great when you watch them, and then when you become a FIFA YouTuber, you want to open packs, and you do objectives to get these packs, some packs, free packs, and then you get nothing in them. So to make the content more enjoyable for the viewer, you end up then spending your own money on the packs, and then that's where it gets out of hand.
Jeez.
I never really got into that too much. It was mostly offline when I was, not on YouTube, when I would kind of go a bit mad because I was a little bit embarrassed, like sitting there and being like spending 50, 60, 70 quid or whatever that I'd spend online and people saying, why have you spent all this money on packs? So I would more often than not do it kind of offline. But that's how it works. That's how that's how they suck you in, because the big YouTubers, they open all these packs. Look at what I've got. I've got this and this and this and this. And then you think, oh, I could get that if I just bought a few packs. And it's even worse for younger kids who don't have the money, who are using mum and dad's credit card and stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say my brother, I think, announced actually when I asked him, and he said, actually, yeah, I ended up spending about 160 quid, something or other, from mum and dad's credit cards. It's interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way because I was just really naive and ignorant. I just thought if you're a YouTuber and you're making these videos, oh, you're probably paid from FIFA, or someone's paid for this. But that's really interesting that actually no, it's the YouTuber themselves paying for it out of their own pocket.
Yeah, definitely. And don't get me wrong, I think there's a bit of dodgy dealings going on between some of these YouTubers and EA Sports. They will be, even if the money's coming out of their own bank account, they'll have been paid by EA to kind of promote something or do this or do that. So I think there are some that do that, but also, and I've never really heard any stories of these, so it may not happen, but I'm sure there's got to be some YouTubers out there who don't earn the YouTube revenue that are spending a lot of money on these packs. Because I remember there was one lad that actually he used to do some sort of FIFA series where it was just opening packs, and I'm thinking, how much money would he have spent on all those packs? Because you only see the good ones as well.
Yeah,
so
right.
They cut out all the really, really poor players that they get, and that's what obviously draws people in. But they don't know at the time that they obviously know that they're only showing the good players, but they're trying to make good content. So obviously they're not going to show you the rubbish ones. So they're actually making it worse for kids, because they're like, look, I've got Ronaldo, look, I've got Messi, I've got whoever. And then it's like, oh, we could get that then. But they don't show kind of like the 50, 60 other packs that they've got absolutely nothing in.
No, that sounds, it sounds like other YouTubers and such like. I mean, it got so bad for me that I was like looking at blackjack and how to count cards and things. But anyway, enough about me. Nick, where should we pick things up?
I'm just trying to think now.
Or do you want me to carry on talking? I can ad lib like a true radio show host.
No, well, what I'll say is I'll cut just before I talk about how I not got found out, but how I came clean, because I've done this twice. I've got into massive debt twice, actually. So I'll try and speed it up a little bit because I know we've been going for a bit.
That's fine.
What happened was I obviously was gambling. I was doing it all hours. After a bit, I was using money that me and the lads always used to go to Blackpool every year because two of my best mates have got their birthday's like a week apart. So we always used to go to Blackpool every year because they loved it for some reason. And I just remember there was three of us that were kind of gambling addicts, really. But at that time, none of us really thought we were. Both me and the other... Well, I remember the day before, I went to the bookies and literally spent half of what I had put aside for that trip, which was devastating, really. And then we went there, and then the other two lads were gambling quite a lot. I remember one of the lads, he went off to the casino because, like I say, I always enjoyed going out more than gambling. So that would never really enter my head when I was out. It's before going out. That's the problem for me, because I'm thinking, if I've just got like an hour to just nip to the bookies, then that's fine, isn't it? And then you end up spending 1, 2, 3 hours there, and it's like, well, there's no point in even going out now. I've got no money left, and I've wasted all my night. But I remember him going to the casino in Blackpool, taking £300 out of his bank. Obviously, that's the most you can take out. Losing it all, waiting for the clock to hit 12 o'clock, and then taking another £300 out, losing that. And then for some reason, we were sat up at the bar in the hotel, probably like 4 o'clock in the morning, and he just rung us up and said, "Can you pay for my taxi?" And he turned up, and we always say it to this day, and it's like, that was really, really embarrassing for him, bless him. And I always thought to myself, I'll never get myself in that much bother. But it just spiraled out of control until I think I was about 12 grand in debt, something like that. And that's from the payday loan. But it wasn't just the fact that I was that much in debt. It was the fact that there was all these payday loans, maxed out all the credit cards. And I think the only reason why I did come clean was because I didn't have a penny to kind of play with, or I would have probably kept on with the payday loans and maxing my overdraft and credit cards, and I just didn't have anything left. I was like Ian Beale, got nothing left. I remember telling my dad about it, and my dad was like, he had gambled in the past. Obviously not to the lens that I did, but I think he always felt that it was a bit his fault, and it wasn't at all. It was all my fault. It was me going with my mate for the first time and the roulette and stuff like that. And I remember him taking me out for dinner, and we just went through it all. And but my mum and dad, they've always had a little bit of money, but never enough to kind of spoil us rotten. And we were never any problems, like never go without meals or clothes or anything, but we never really had enough money to kind of from treaters and stuff. So my dad's kind of like, I don't really know what to do, because I can't bail you out myself. And I think he was probably close to remortgaging the house just to help me out. But my sister at that point, she's 7 years older than me, so what was it, about 22, 23? So she must have been around 30, something like that. Really good job, house, everything. So she ended up getting a 12 grand loan out and bailing me out.
Wow.
Which was, I'll never forget that. It was incredible.
Yeah.
Obviously sorted out all the payday loans. She was like, right, give me all the amounts, who you owe it to. I'll sort it all out now.
Wow.
So one weekend I just wrote everything down, gave it to her, and she's just sorted it all out for me. What made it even worse was I just split up with the girlfriend that I was talking about earlier, and her mum and dad to help me out with my credit card, so that they put my debt onto their credit card because it was a 0% finance one, and I would just pay them. And as we just broke up, I was in such a bad state. I was like, I'm never speaking to them ever again. It'll go away. They'll just pay it. It wasn't a huge amount of money, but it was probably like $1.50, something like that, which is a lot of money, really.
No, it is, yeah.
But when you're in that headspace and you're at rock bottom and you feel so bad about yourself, it's like you don't care about anyone else. You don't even care about yourself, really. And I was like, I'm not giving them that money back. They've got no chance. And they just chased me and chased me and chased me. And then eventually they got in touch with my sister. She was like, is this true? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, right, I'll pay them off as well. Yeah. And I paid, I think it was £350 a month to my sister for about 3 years, something like that. I don't know if that works out. It might have been 300. Within 3 years, it was all paid off.
That's amazing.
Incredible, like such a great gesture from her. And then for a few years after that, I was fine. I didn't really gamble. Whilst we were in that 3 years, my mates used to lend me money and stuff to go out with. I never would gamble. I knew what she'd done for me. I knew that I could never get myself back into that situation, especially not in them 3 years, because like it would have been lower than rock bottom. But yeah, we used to go out and stuff quite a lot. I used to borrow money and then kind of end up trying to pay them back a bit by bit. But it wasn't because I wanted to necessarily go out. They would be like, "Oh, bored in the house. Shall we just go into town? And I'll lend you 30 quid." And it's like, no worries. But yeah, I think I was probably another couple of years clean, if that timeline works, I think.
Actually, sorry to really interrupt you here, Nick. Just really quick one. Just, I suppose, for my benefit, for the listeners' benefit. When you said you had that conversation with your dad, was that you going to him, or he picked up on you? Like, who started? Who initiated the conversation?
It's weird to say now, because like if I go to my mum and dad's, I'd sit in the living room, talk to him. I wouldn't think about anything else. But back then, I would come in from work, eat my dinner with them, and then I would go into the bedroom and play FIFA all night, or like I'd watch something on TV. I can't even remember if it was Netflix back then, but so they didn't really pick up on anything because they barely saw me. So that was the thing, and I told my dad because it was breaking point. There was literally nothing else I could do. I had no room for maneuver whatsoever. And something that I've not really touched on is I used to try and find ways to kind of stop myself from gambling. And that was, if I would go out and gamble one day, I would stop myself and be like, right, let's go home. And I know it sounds really stupid, but let's go and play FIFA. Let's just chill out, play FIFA. And then every time I think about gambling, I just play FIFA. I try and condition myself out of it. And that didn't work, obviously. And then I got myself into this state where I was like, right, so I'm going to put £20 on this team to beat this other team. So why don't I just put 20 quid into a savings account? And then just, that's it. I'm saving money rather than spending it. And then I did that for about a week. And then the gambling demon in my head was like, no, you can win. I tried to get myself out of it. But the problem is, I know it shouldn't be anything to be embarrassed about, because there's a lot of people that suffer with this. But you do end up feeling embarrassed. You don't want to tell anyone about it because it's an embarrassing thing to get yourself into. But it happens to so many people. It really does. But it's not just that. It does turn you into a massive liar. I must have lied to so many people over the past, over the years, and it just made me feel like I was a bad person.
Yeah.
And I'd stand in the bookies, just constantly spinning, and then I would be thinking, what am I doing here? Why am I not out with my mates? Why am I not doing this? Why am I not doing that? And it just like, why am I stood around with all these people that I don't know, that like I don't want to associate myself with.
Yeah.
And I could be going out with my mates. I don't get it.
No, God, I can relate. Like this is all just so similar. I can't. Yeah, it's unreal. It's unreal. Wow. So Nick, you said you were actually no. So just to reflect actually quickly, but it's interesting you said about like you stopped caring about other people, but you stopped caring for yourself. I think self-care kind of flies out the window. I think that was almost evident in. I hope I'm correct in saying, but you know the energy drinks, the lack of sleep. It's actually the whole health and well-being sort of slice of the pie chart, if you like, of health and well-being. You kind of think, oh yeah, gambling's just like this little slither. Well, actually, gambling's like at this heart, at the center, that's leading you to do all these other. So it became physical. I think that's more of a point rather than a question.
No, I can pick it up from here.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Because I went probably a few years without gambling, and then I got myself back into it. It always starts with £10 here, £20 there, and this is where I really got into the tennis betting, because it's literally point. Like I've always been a football man, and football betting just wasn't doing it for me at that point. And I, like I said, I was the worst gambler, because what I used to do is I used to say Man United would go 1-0 down against Southampton. I'd then stick £20 on Man United to win. That's what I always used to do. That was what I was like, oh, look at that, it's 3-1. They're definitely going to come back and win. And all the times you didn't put it on, it came in. Every time you did put it on, it didn't.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to one of my mates, the guy that lost that £600 going to the casino. And when he stopped gambling, he said he stopped watching football because he didn't feel like he didn't care anymore. It's like the only reason why he watched football, even though he was a massive football fan, he didn't care about watching it anymore because there was nothing riding on it. And I think that's why I don't enjoy watching football anymore. I only really watch Sheffield United for obvious reasons, being a fan. And after that, unless it's directly affecting my team, I'm not bothered about watching it. And I think that's it, because I always used to look. I used to wait for a goal to be scored against the favourite, and then I used to lump on them to win. And it obviously came off a few times, but it didn't come off a lot more for obvious reasons. But yeah, I got into the tennis betting because it was much more engaging, because it wasn't kind of waiting 40 minutes for a goal, or like obviously I could have bet on corners and things like that. There's all sorts you can bet on, but the fact that tennis, I got really into tennis as well. I started understanding who was good, who wasn't, if someone had a bit of an injury, if they were down on the form, and so obviously you can do that with any sport. But I really felt like I knew it, and like you were talking about the blackjack and stuff in your podcast, I really felt like I knew it. And obviously, loads of other gambling addicts are like, oh, they know about horse race, I knew about tennis, and I won. I did win some money on tennis, but then you get to a point where it's the same thing. The favourite goes a set down. So it's like, lump on him, lump on her. And it's one of these things where, do you know, when you're betting on football and then there's no kind of Premiership football or Championship or League One football on, I'll bet on the Israeli third division or whatever. It was the same with tennis. I was waking up at 7 o'clock in the morning, ready to go to work. I would look on, I don't know what betting app I was using at that point, but I'd look on it, and it was like two Chinese women against each other. And I was like, whoever was the higher odds, I'd just bet a tenner on them. And it'd be like, why? Why would you do that? But I think at that point, this is what I'm coming on to the second time I was a bit silly. It was like you're so much in debt that you need a big win. So it's like, I'll stick £20 on someone who's 7-1 to win. And then it went from that to, right, I'm well in debt. I need to put £20 on two really high odds. And then it went on and on from there. And what happened was I've got into the relationship that I'm in now. I'm married. We've been together for 7 years.
Nice one.
And we I got back into it when we were together. Nothing to do with her. It was playing at me constantly, and I was like, right, I could just win this little bit. I could just win that little bit, and it snowballed. And what happened was I probably was about £1,000 in debt, something like that. So what I did was I took out a loan to pay that off, which I didn't use the loan for that. And that happened again. So I snowballed 2 loans, wasted it all, thinking, oh, I've got £100 spare here. Let's put it on somebody at 2, 3 to 1 or whatever, and I'll be able to pay more loan off. And it just snowballed from there. And I ended up going £20,000 in debt again, and not particularly having a good job to pay it off, or a well-paid job. So I came clean with my girlfriend at the time, now wife, and she still doesn't really understand the level of where I was at to this day. I don't think she really understands how bad it is. But since I've been kind of listening to your podcast and she's been hearing your voice quite a lot, I think she kind of understands it a bit more now. But we came back from a night out, and I'd realised that I got absolutely nothing in my bank account, and I just asked her to pay for some drinks because I can't remember what excuse I used. And I got home and I just started crying. I was like really drunk as well, which obviously brought on the tears. But I just told her everything. And at that point, I don't think she really understood. But the way I got out of it was using step change. Have you had much dealings with step change?
Not me personally, but I've heard of a few others that have used it. I think Lewis in podcast 14, I think he used it or uses it. I've heard others as well, but I've heard nothing but good things about step change.
Absolutely brilliant charity. Yeah, they've sorted me out properly. Like I looked at taking out loans and things like that to try and pay it all off. Like I knew at that point that was it. Like I could never go back to that place ever again. And if I would have got a loan, I wouldn't have used it for that. I know for a fact that I wouldn't have used it for that. I was in the right headspace where I was like, this is never going to happen to me again. I can't ever let it happen, or I'm going to lose my girlfriend at the time. I'm probably going to end up moving back home to mum and dad. I can't let this happen anymore. So I got in touch with Step Change. They were brilliant. They just sorted out a plan. Just stick to that. And it didn't matter how much money you kind of do or don't get paid, they'll find a plan for you. I think it was 4 years, something like that, that I was paying for it. I think I've got about 3 or 4 months left, so I'm nearly there.
Oh, that's amazing, mate. Amazing. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's I've never really told my story to anyone. My friends and my wife knows little bits and stuff, but I've never really told anyone any of these stories. But like I think after I'd kind of after Step Change had kind of stepped in and sorted it all out, maybe I bet once or had a couple of months where I'd probably wasted probably £100-200, and then I'd get myself back on track, and then like 2 or 3 months later I'd find another betting account that I'd not self-included myself in, and then I would kind of waste another £200, and it kind of went like that for about 6 months, maybe 8 months, where like it was little bits and bobs, and it's like you get to a point where you're like, right, I've done that too many times. Let's just draw a line under it, and I haven't gambled since. That's
incredible. That's absolutely incredible. When do you? I don't know. Do you keep a date when that was?
Or, no, I don't.
I don't. By the way, I don't. I don't. I know others like abide by it, but I just wondered how long ago, like roughly, like would you say that is? Is it like a few months ago or a year ago or?
It must be 3 years ago.
Oh wow, nice
something
one.
Like that. Yeah.
Oh, nice one. Well done. Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing that comes close to it is when me and my wife I kind of lived through her in a way. She knows all my problems that I've had. She has a Sky betting account, and like only one time this is, and she put the bet on. It was Russia in the World Cup in 2018?
Yeah.
When it was in Russia, and we put £20 on Russia to win the either World Cup or Euros, whatever it was. And it was just a bit nice for us to kind of have something to look at. That's all it was, really. Just for something for us to kind of have together to get her into the football. And that's all it was. We watched them get through to the group stage, and then they beat Spain on penalties. And then we took it out there, and then I think it only made about 70, 80 quid, something like that. But that kind of... I knew the sort of person that I was when we put that bet on, or I wouldn't have done it. But I never had any control of it. She was always the person in control, and that was it. That's the only one bet that we've put on together in like I say, like 3 years. That's
good. That's good. I mean, I'm so envious of people that can manage to bet and keep it as a leisure activity, stay in control, if that's the phrase to use. But yeah.
I to be honest, mate, I don't feel like that. I don't feel like I'm that person. I feel like that was a one-time only thing. I don't think I would ever get back into. I wouldn't do another bet because it did give me the urges after that. But at the same time, I knew that I would never put myself in that position ever again. And we've not even touched on the YouTube stuff, because that is another thing that really took my mind off gambling, because I started the YouTube channel in probably 2016-ish, something like that.
Right.
Let me think, 5 years ago. Yeah, probably. And I was gambling at the same time as doing that at certain points. So what I was doing, I was editing a video at, say, my missus had gone to bed, and I'd be sat here editing, and then you're like, I'll have a quick sneaky look at who's playing in the tennis, and it obviously it snowballs. It's like table tennis. Then you're like, ice hockey. And it's like things that I'd know nothing about. You end up just putting random bets on. But I was doing that late at night, and I think that was in that time where I was just getting myself through it, and I was throwing stupid like £100, £200 on nothing really, and then kind of sorting myself out to go again. And then you go through a month of no gambling, and then you get hit by it again. But yeah, the YouTube, that really kind of helped me out. It took my mind off it since becoming kind of semi-successful, I'd say. Like the start of the
You're being modest, by the way. Nick is being super modest. He's got, what is it, over 11,000 subscribers, and you get like, as I say, over 3 million views. You're being very modest, very modest.
There's loads more people in my position that have got a lot more than me. So I like to say it's successful for what it is, because obviously Sheffield United aren't a massive team. And I started off doing the FIFA videos, and it got me to kind of 1,000 subscribers and maybe to 2. And then it's just taken off since then. So I think that whilst I was not really doing that well with YouTube, I was still gambling a little bit. And then when it's taken off, all my effort has been put into that rather than thinking about the gambling.
It's replacing the time, isn't it? I think that's the biggest thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Definitely, and I'm absolutely loving it. I think that the YouTube is probably taking more time out of my day than my day job at the moment. But now everything's going well. I'm really, maybe not as healthy as what I would like to be because of my injury, not being able to do as much as what I used to do. Because before my injury, I got back into playing football. I was going running. I was going to the gym. I was doing all sorts. And then since that, and I think really, I'm really proud of myself from going from working in the office to working from home because of this injury, and being sat at home all on my own all day long, not thinking about gambling once. And I'm pretty proud of myself for that.
Yeah. Oh, I think you should be. Totally. Yeah. No, I definitely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sorry, Nick, to cut you off there, but like, what would you? I have got a couple of questions, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I just wondered, like, what advice and tips would you give to others? Like, what have you learned through the way? Like, giving up gambling? Was it just step change? What other things would you advise or give listeners, advice and tips about?
The first one's probably not a very good tip for younger people, but I felt like the age that I was at and the fact that I'd never been sacked from a job, but I'd never really done what I'd wanted to do. I think the gambling always held me back from really progressing in my career. And I think the fact that I was at that age, I was thinking, I've done this before, I can't do it. Like I've already gone through one kind of rehabilitation. This is going to have to be the last time. And I think it was last chance saloon, because I probably would have lost my girlfriend, or now wife. I, again, probably would have ended up at my mum and dad's house and ended up like that guy that was my boss earlier, who was like 40 years old, sat on a chair in a bookies just spinning. So I think it was the age that did it for me and where I was in my life. And I think nobody can tell you how to, when to stop gambling. You have to know in your head that you need to stop yourself. Because if your parents say to you, you need to stop gambling, that's not going to stop you from gambling. It's you, in your mind, in your life, you need to know when you're done. And I think I was too young at the time, the first time, to kind of not do it forever. And I'm not saying that's a bit of a stupid thing to say, but I think I was too young and I didn't really understand what I'd done the first time. And I don't think it ever leaves you. But at the same time, as long as you kind of put other things in place that you can do to kind of take your mind off it, like I've got the YouTube, or that somebody else might have a different hobby. You might play football, you might do this, you might do that to take your mind off it. You might enjoy doing other hobbies that stimulate you. And a lot of people go running to take their mind off things. And so I would say take up something new or something that you're passionate in to try and kind of take your mind off it. But like I say, I think you need to be in the right headspace to quit gambling if it's something that's really, really a problem. I went on a bit of a self-righteous kind of, I'm going to stop everybody in the world from gambling a few months ago. And it was when, obviously, I listened to your podcast. And I put a tweet out and just said, if anybody's got any problems with gambling, let me know, talk to me, I'm here. I can, and I spoke to probably 2 or 3, maybe 3 or 4 people. And I could tell that none of them were ready to quit gambling, because I was trying to talk to them more and more and more and more, trying to keep them talking. And they're like, oh yeah, I do this, but I'm not really that bad. And I do, and it's like, you could be, you really could be. And like I said, there's only so much you can do for somebody else. They need to know when they're done with gambling, because you could help them. They might not gamble for a few months, but then they could fall back into it like I did.
Why do you think that is? I mean, I'm trying to analyze that. I mean, because it was certainly the same for me. It was like when the penny drops. I've got another very good friend who's sort of battling, I suppose, drug addiction. And I spoke to him maybe 6 months ago, and I came off the phone, very similar to like you just said. And my girlfriend asked, she said, oh, how was the conversation? And I said, he's not ready. He's just not ready. He's not ready to take that step. So why do you think that is? Why do you think we have, I'm going to use the phrase grow out of it. That really is loosely used, but just to describe it, to grow out of. But why do you think that is?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. Like I said, for me, it was I didn't want to lose what I'd got. So that was it. It wasn't really that I never enjoyed gambling. Like, sorry, maybe I did the first sort of year. That's how I got into it. But I never really enjoyed it. It was always, my anxiety levels were through the roof constantly. I was probably depressed at the time. I don't think I'm a very depressed sort of person. I'm quite a happy-go-lucky person. But at that point, I must have been, because I was feeling really down on myself all the time. I don't really. It's difficult because I wouldn't say I was suicidal, but I definitely had. I'm too much of a wimp anyway for any of that. But like, the thought crossed my mind more than once, I'll say, but I never got to that situation where I thought I'm going to do anything daft. But I did have an occasional thought of like, I'm worthless. Like nobody will care if I'm not here. Which, yeah, I've never really thought about that too much. So yeah.
No, sorry to dive into that area.
No, it's not your fault though.
Yeah, I mean, is there anything else you would like to add? Like, is there anything that you've not mentioned that you think, oh, do you know what, I want to kind of touch on that?
Probably lots of things that I've been thinking over the past week, but nothing that I can really I can come up with now. I don't think. I was really embarrassed at the time to tell my family, but at the same time, you've just got to. If you've reached rock bottom, there's always a way. Like, there's always a way to come out to somebody and tell. Because more often than not, the person on the other end of the phone or the person you're speaking to, they're going to sympathise with you. They're not going to say you're an idiot because everybody knows that it's an addiction as well as any other addiction. So they're not going to kind of have a go at you, which I thought that's what was going to happen when I told my family, my dad, my mum. But they were really supportive. So if that's where you are in your life and you feel like you're at rock bottom, you can always tell someone. Always.
It's really interesting you say that. I think that feeling, you build it up so much in your head of like, they're going to have a go at me, they're going to think this, they're going to think that, or whatever. But okay, I can't guarantee every time it's going to be all right. But actually, you're right. It's the opposite. I don't know why I'll share this. What the hell? I haven't quite quit my job, but I had a very frank conversation today with my line manager, and we were to have a Zoom meeting, and I was just like, I don't want to do this. I just don't want to do this. And in the past, I would have just been like, all smiley, like, yeah, how are you? Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, fine. She just went, how are you? And I just went, I'm not good. And I'm like, oh my God, listening back now, I'm like, was I being a drama queen? Was that like just being, prima donna or whatever? But it felt so good. There's a chap actually that I haven't met, but I've got to know online, as it were, Michael Brody. I'm going to get his name wrong. I don't know him, but follow him and like his stuff, and we've shared a few messages and stuff. But Michael Brody White, I'm going to get that horribly wrong. But he basically set up an American company, and he was just totally authentic, just totally honest. Like, yeah, here's all my skeletons. Here they are, basically. I had a drug addiction, and alcohol and whatnot, and he was just totally honest. And I can't tell you, like, having been so secretive, having told all those lies, having, like you say, felt so dirty and so bad as a person, to flip it on its head now and be like, I can be just totally honest. Not all the time, because sometimes if your girlfriend says, oh, how do I look? You go, yeah, you look good. But moments like this, I felt really proud of myself, because like, yes, that is what I wouldn't have done. And I was really proud of myself today. And it also feels quite good sometimes when you go, yeah, I don't want to do this. And you tell someone about it. And guess what? She didn't have a go. She was like, I'm disappointed because naturally I want to keep you on, but sleep on it. But I totally understand. She was really empathetic and she sympathized and she saw my point of view. And it was, it was a breath of fresh air. So I can completely agree with everything you've just said.
That's brilliant. That is really good, because also we are gonna. I don't want for this to sound like I'm promoting my channel, but no,
not at all.
Ever the marketer. But what I was going to say was that we're going to do a video on my channel as well. That we're trying to kind of. I want to kind of teach some good teachings really to the people that watch my channel, because we said at the start that football is kind of a gateway. I'm going to say gateway drug. That's not right, but a gateway to the addiction. You put on your first accumulator. You then see across the room that there's a roulette machine there, and there's a lot of people that are interested in football. Football is obviously the most played sport in the country, and I think that is the way in. And there's a lot of people that watch my channel that are young as well and impressionable. So I know obviously a lot of people have spoken about this on your podcast before about how many betting companies are on the front of football shirts, and it feels like that's getting a little bit better. The fact that it's no longer on the children's shirt. But I did hear the guy the other day talk about that and say it makes the kid want that shirt.
Yeah.
So it can work both ways, but they are trying, and that's the thing. They are trying. They're not doing this. It's not a marketing strategy we won't put it on the child shirt so that they really want that. They are trying, I believe, and I think within a few years there'll be enough campaigners that will no longer have that on front of football shirts, kind of like the cigarette brands of the past.
Well, actually, this is perfect. This is great. I mean, at time of recording, I'm just about to basically upload a vlog about the Big Step. I don't know if you've heard of the Big Step, but the Big Step, they're based in Sheffield. Well, actually Manchester, but based with Gambling with Lives, which is a charity set up from bereaved families because their sons and daughters took their own lives due to gambling-related suicide. They're based in Sheffield near you, and the Big Step is amazing. By the way, the Big Step is amazing. The video is walking from Coventry to Leicester. Sorry, I'm plugging this. If you listen to the podcast, you'll be like, yeah, dude, I watched this like months ago. Or maybe not, who knows? But yeah, it's a campaign to end gambling's relationship or football's relationship with gambling sponsors and such like. And not this weekend, but next weekend, they've got an event coming up where they're going to try and walk to all of the stadiums in the UK with gambling sponsor. So I will be walking to Reading Football Club. I hope the petition's got over 7,000 signatures. They're looking to get to 10 if they can. That's
brilliant.
But yeah, that's a really strong campaign that is doing exactly what you've just mentioned. So I don't know. I went to Coventry. We walked Coventry to Leicester, and I hope this comes across in the vlog that I put out. I mean, it's me rambling a bit like I am now, but basically, it was so good. Like we're connecting now, but to connect with others that have also experienced gambling-related harm, and to be like a bit like what Jeff said in podcast 20, which was like, I finally found people from the same part of the planet. Like I can relate to everything, most of what you've said, not just about the bag of your telly, but the fact that you've got a good mate that you would go and have some food and go and gamble and stuff. So it was so powerful. Like, and being part of this campaign, it's political, of course, but it was so nice to have that shared experience and to come together with fellow like-minded individuals. So anyway, this is now turning into a one big step advert. But yeah,
it's all for a good cause.
Absolutely. Right, Nick, before I run out of time, well, no, I'm not on the clock, but I mean, God, I just feel like I say this every podcast. I'm like, I could just sit here and talk. Where can people find you if they want to find you online?
Well, I go by the kind of persona of In Good Nick, obviously play on words, and my name's Nick. I started the FIFA YouTube channel as In Good Nick. I try and distance myself from that as much now. I'm just Nick. But on Twitter, I am at InGoodNick17. On Instagram, I am at InGoodNick17. And I've just changed the channel in the past kind of 6 months, and it's gone from In Good Nick to the Sheffield United way. So I'm not expecting everybody to go over and subscribe because I probably wouldn't if I wasn't a Sheffield United fan. But no, we do some good stuff for Sheffield United fans, and we are trying to broaden our horizons. Obviously, we're just getting relegated from the Premier League, so we might need to up the views by doing some other videos. So it's definitely a football-based YouTube channel.
Awesome. Check it out, guys. It is a very, very good channel. And just on that note, if you do get relegated, maybe we'll be playing against each other, Sheffield United, Bournemouth. So,
yeah, definitely. I'm still not very happy with you selling us Aaron Ramsdale, though, because he has been terrible this season.
Yeah. Well, we got him from you originally, didn't we? And then,
yes.
Do you know what? It's funny because I thought, I mean, to tell you the truth, I always thought to myself, I didn't think he was quite ready for the Premier League. And interesting, I was like, okay, yeah, good signing, but yeah, he's not been good, right?
No, he's been really bad, to be honest. But the whole team's been bad, so I can't just blame Ramsdale. Even though a lot of Sheffield United fans like to just blame Ramsdale.
Oh well, this is like perfect segue. We'll just press stop record and we'll just go back on. We'll get onto your channel now. But look, Nick, thank you so much for sharing your story, and thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. It's been awesome.
No problem. Thank you for having me. And I'll obviously continue to listen to all your podcasts because I absolutely love it.
Oh, top man. Well, thanks, Nick. And I'll speak to you soon. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. What part of Nick's story could you relate to the most? Did you get into betting after placing an innocent football accumulator? Did you progress onto casino-style games like roulette? Did you progress onto online sports betting, placing bets on obscure football and tennis matches around the world? Let me know. Let's start a conversation. Feel free to drop us a comment on YouTube, message on social media, or get in touch with me confidentially via email, info@theinvisibleaddiction.com. In the next episode, I'll be speaking to another YouTuber, somebody who is using his experience of gambling addiction to help others and spread awareness. Really looking forward to that one. Finally, I'd like to say a massive thank you to the sponsors of this episode, Talk Ban Stop, which is a partnership between GamCare, GamBan and GamStop that combines practical tools with support to help you stop gambling and kickstart your recovery journey. It all starts with a chat. In the meantime, thanks once again, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.